Hey everyone, this is George, and I just read the first issue of Marvel's Alien, and there's a lot I want to talk about. So before we go any further, I do want to say there are spoilers, major spoilers in this video, so please be warned. And if you're still here, well, let me tell you about Alien number 1. So this story is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson and illustrated by Salvador Larroca. The coloring was done by Guru FX, and the main cover is illustrated by In-hyuk Lee. So here's some background on the story. The year is 2200. We're introduced to the main character of the story, Gabriel Cruz, the installation security chief for Weyland-Yutani's Epsilon station. And he's in a counseling session with a Bishop model android, and he's recalling some traumatic events involving the aliens. There's a 2-page spread image where we see a huge mass of these aliens. There's even a hammerpede, and in particular we also see the strange hybrid xenomorph woman from the comic book trailer. Cruz actually mentions the Xeno woman and that she was maybe looking for him, so I don't know if we're going to see more of that in the future stories. And so we're back in the Bishop Counselor's office, and Cruz seems to actually genuinely care for this particular Bishop model android. And he actually says that he's going to miss their interactions since he's now retiring and he's going to have to go back to Earth. But this Bishop, of course, downplays Cruz's fondness for him. And he mentions, he could just have some of his schematics and specific mannerisms uploaded into another Bishop model for him on Earth. But that's where they leave this conversation here, and it gives us a lot of insight into the main character. We next see Cruz at his retirement ceremony from the Epsilon station, and it's obvious that he's really well respected. A lot of people really care about Cruz, and they really admire him, and you can clearly see that in his retirement ceremony. In the following pages, it's a month later, and we're back on Earth. So we actually see Cruz's estranged son, Danny. He's in a car with his girlfriend, and they're actually members of this anti-Weyland-Yutani Corporation group. And while Danny was invited by his father over to try and spend time with him and maybe kind of make up for past time lost, we see that Danny's actually doing this only to gain access to his father's security clearances. And so Danny at first is kind of hesitant, but his girlfriend kind of convinces him, yeah, you can do it. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then we actually get to see their interaction. And this interaction, it starts off as a slow burn and it just explodes. Danny, he doesn't really want to talk to his father. He makes an excuse that he needs to use the restroom. And as soon as he gets back from the restroom and obviously sneaking into his dad's stuff and taking the security clearance, he tells him that he has to go. And Gabriel, of course, is trying to spend time with him and wants to try and build a relationship after everything that's happened in their lives. And it comes to a head, and it goes from 0 to 60. And they're in a shouting match with each other. And we learn that, something very bad happened to Danny's brother, Gabriel's son. And Danny blames the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. And his father, I think his father blames himself for his son's death. There's a lot of pent-up anger and I would say even hatred here. You see all of the detail and the anger and the rage in each other's faces, especially for Danny, for his father, for choosing his job over his family and whatever happened to his brother Lucas. So Danny ends up leaving and he got the security clearances. And so the story then jumps into one of Cruz's counseling sessions, and he's kind of flashing back to a very dark memory. And we actually get to see from Cruz's memory that he was actually cocooned in a xenomorph hive along with another person, and Cruz is just telling this other Bishop model android that he's now seeing on Earth about this experience. And it jumps to a month after the visit between Danny and his father, and Danny and a lot of members of his group of anti-Weyland-Yutani people actually have boarded Epsilon station using his father's credentials, and we actually see Danny's girlfriend, I would say, needlessly blow the head off of one of the security personnel. And they're on the station, they're using the security clearances, and then they go into this biological testing area. So what's interesting is that Danny, he just thought that they were boarding like a security installation with a lot of technology, and they were going to try and use that technology to, hurt Weyland-Yutani. But where they actually boarded is actually a biotesting center and not a computer hub. They access this one area and they see test tubes everywhere, massive test tubes, just like the scene from Alien Resurrection where you see all of the Ripley clones in the test tubes. But instead of Ripley clones, you see a lot of strange testing subjects, and you can kind of tell that they're experimenting with xenomorph biology, and they're all disfigured, and you can tell that they were failed test subjects. But Danny's actually surprised by this. He seems like, one, he didn't want to kill people, and two, he wasn't intending to access a biotesting center. Right off the bat, you see that Danny's put himself in a very dangerous situation along with everybody there. So then they find these two scientists who are hiding in that lab, and then there's this one door that they can't access even with Gabriel's security clearances and the security clearances of the officers they executed. They still can't access this door. Danny's girlfriend is kind of taking the lead here, and she's ordering them to open the door. One of the scientists is terrified, and he seems like he's very willing to help them. But the other scientist, she actually initiates a verbal lockdown, and all hell breaks loose. And I'm not sure if the specimens let themselves out or somebody accidentally shoots the tubes open by mistake, but we actually quickly see that there are face huggers here who immediately go to work attaching themselves to people. And so the issue actually ends with one of the face huggers leaping through the air at Danny, and then it cuts to black, and that's where the first issue ends. So I love this issue, and I honestly felt like it was a fantastic start to Marvel's first Alien series. My eyes were gripped to every page, and I couldn't wait to get to the next one. It felt like I was reading the sequel to James Cameron's Aliens, and I know that's high praise, but that's what I personally felt after reading this, and it's only the first issue. So I have to credit Johnson with introducing an incredibly interesting lead in Gabriel Cruz. The man is clearly flawed, but also a seemingly decent person who's at times even vulnerable. We get a glimpse of some dark episodes in his past that have never left him, and we see how it still affects him. And he's a man who put his career before his family, and he's trying to make amends for that with his surviving son with the time he has left. Because in the issue, it's revealed that Cruz is suffering from some unknown ailment, and his days are numbered. It seems like he's trying to do the best he can with the time he has left. The dynamic between father and son feels genuine and especially painful because they're at odds with who's to blame for the death of the other son, Lucas, with Danny blaming the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and with Gabriel being a staunch supporter of Weyland-Yutani. And I also really like that Johnson set the story in continuity after the events of Alien and Aliens. To me, the story felt like a logical progression to the story, with Weyland-Yutani having acquired the facehugger specimens and experimenting on Xeno DNA. It's just like everything Ripley feared has come true, and I'm actually wondering if we're going to get to see Ripley popping up in this series. But seeing as how Weyland-Yutani has aliens and they're near Earth, I think she's either been killed or is on the run, because I doubt she'd let this stand. It'd be a huge reveal if we learned that Ripley is somehow the leader of the resistance group that Cruz's son is running with. But that's just something I think would be really interesting to see. I liked how fast the story moved. The seeds are planted for everything falling apart, just like in all of the Aliens films. And you know this just won't end well for the humans, especially since Epsilon Station is so near Earth. And I say it's near Earth because travel to and from this station seems to take less than an Earth month. So if it is actually near Earth orbit, well, everything Ripley feared is just one mistake away from happening and from life on Earth being wiped out by the Xenos. Which reminds me of the Aliens Earth War story, which I'd like to see a reimagining of with Marvel. I also think fans like myself who are worried about Marvel pulling their punches with the blood and the gore will actually be pleasantly surprised, because we actually don't get to see any Xeno on human bloodbaths, but what we do get to see is human on human violence, and we get to see a security officer's head explode in all of its gory detail. And if that's any indication of the things to come, then the Xenos will most likely be unleashing bloody carnage in the coming issues. La Roca's illustrations also deserve a lot of credit for making this issue shine. His illustrations were downright cinematic to me, and I love how much detail he put into everyone's expressions. Through his drawings, I could really feel the characters' emotions, especially in Gabriel's flashbacks, like moments where the other Cocoon guy keeps saying how he's not supposed to be there. Weyland-Yutani pulled his leave and made him stay on that base, and shortly after, a xenomorph outbreak occurs, and as a result, he's now cocooned and waiting to be face-huggered. Loroca just really captures the intense fear on that man's face, and it's contrasted by Gabriel Cruz's expressions, which are fearful, and he just has this weariness and uncertainty as he silently waits for his own face-hugger. And I want to say that Guru FX's colors are also a real highlight of this book, and his crisp, vibrant colors definitely add to the cinematic experience of this book. And for me, everything just hit the high expectations I had for this book, and my only concern now is that can they keep it up in the following issues? So I think if you want a clean reintroduction to the Alien story, post-Alien and Aliens, this is definitely a great jumping on point for everyone. I also like that they left the door open to revisit or possibly even include past characters like Ripley, Hicks, or even Newt. And while I think it's unlikely we'll see them in this story, I feel like if they're not dead, they're still out there and there might be stories for them in the future. I don't know, but I'm hopeful. So I'd love to know what you all think. How do you feel about this issue? Are you excited for issue 2, or was this issue maybe a letdown for you? Let me know in the comment section, and thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.